All right. The math professor is on the air once more. Okay. All right. I've got to tell you, trying to offer the class in so many modes. Would you grab a book as you go by? All right.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There are 2 participants in the meeting.
Well, cool. And who is our other participant? Okay, apparently they're the lone participant. Participants. Okay. We have Winter and Dominic online. Now, Winter and Dominic, go and grab a textbook or some other somewhat complicated book. Has everyone got a copy of the Engineering Student Survival Guide? Well, reach behind you and get one.
Who thought of this?
Well, don't you wish you had had one all along? All right, so who have we got? I have Winter Morgan, I have Dominic Chi, I have Victoria Charlie, I have Brandon, I have Adrian. I'm sorry, please remind me.
Colby?
Oh, Colby. Colby?
Yes.
All right, Donahue. All right. There we go. All right, so having said that, let's jump into the excitement of using Word. Now, not those books that we handed out, everyone can keep the copy that they have been handed out. If they so desire. I would actually suggest looking it over. It gives you a lot of good tips about going to school, and particularly going to school in the technical fields. And some information that I Would have liked to have known when I started engineering school, for sure. How many people here do not have a copy of the syllabus? Okay, there we go. Anyone else? Guys, always make sure you know what's in the syllabus. It is a legal document between you and the school. And I have had students in the past point out, hey, it doesn't say that you can do such and such in the syllabus, and had to change my grading system or raise their grade or some other things that they really liked. And I know that when I was in school, one of the things that I did was to always study my syllabus and know what the rules were so that I could exploit them ruthlessly. All right, so we've got this book here, and those of you listening at home, I'm expecting that you have a book of some kind out as well. So today we're going to talk about what do we do when we are outlining or we're writing a long report or paper. Because the process is very similar. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, as usual, I am going to file this document in the computer skills folder, right? So I'm going to file it as engineering student survival guide. Now, if I were writing this as a report, I would put my name in there somewhere so that people would have some kind of idea, but instead I'm going to put outline. And what is today? It is the 23rd. So 8/23/2020. Okay, now, those of you who are at home or are doing your homework here, go ahead and put your name and homework number 4. All right, so in fact, I'll do that just to lead the way. Wow, that's a long file name, but it's not so long that it won't take it. File names, I want to say you can go all the way up to 256 characters. Now, I'm not really expecting that's going to be like a normal situation. Because what happens is when you start looking in the folders, unless you have a really wide place for the file names, that will usually get truncated, and you may have to hover over. See, so for example, here on computer skills for engineers homework fall 2018, you'll notice it's cut off, but if I just hover with the cursor over it, of course now it won't do it.
There's nothing on the screen, Mr. Whiting.
There's nothing on the screen. Thank you for bringing that up, Victoria. Very kind of you. All right, so I'll find something else. Effective PowerPoint presentations, yes, okay. So hover over that and damn it, computer, you're making me look bad here. Ah, there we go. I don't know, sometimes you have to get the cursor in just the right place for it to, but now it's showing the entire file name. Right? What happens to me a lot of times is I have so many files that have very similar names that sometimes I've got to track it down by the specific date, or find the one with the latest date, etc. When I do that, this date modified column can also be extremely helpful. All right, but for right now, we're not going to worry about that. All right, so we've got our blank paper to begin our outline. What I'm going to do is I am going to go here to title, right? Now you'll notice I've got all these little headers here, headers, subtitles, all kinds of different little ways I can just quickly change the style. Right, so I go up and I right click on the title, and you'll notice there it gives me a little menu box, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to modify and click on that. All right, so it gives you the chance to rename this, although title is exactly what I want it to be. The formatting here, it's already in Times New Roman, which by now you've probably figured out is my favorite font style. The setting is at 28 point font. Well, first of all, how do we know the conversion from points to like inches? Points are actually at 12 points to the inch. So it's another one of those confusing English measurement things where things don't go by tens, they go by 12s, by 16s, by threes, all kinds of confusing methods. Well, you know what? I'm going to make that slightly smaller and go down to 26. Okay, bold. Yes, I'm going to go bold on my titles. All right. Now you'll notice down here at the bottom, right, it shows you, all right, this is what your text is going to look like, right? And then down here at the bottom it says add to the styles gallery, automatically update, only in this document, and new documents based on this template, right? Well, I could uncheck add to the styles gallery and it'll only be in this document. I'm sorry, was that a question on the other end? Okay, apparently Dominic would rather not say anything at this point. But I want my styles to be consistent across all documents that I create. So I'm going to go with new documents based on this template. All right, and it gives you some more things. You can go for paragraphs, tabs, etc. One other thing, it gives you the choice of left justify, center justify, right justify, or spread out across. I'm going to go with center. All right, so I have everything set up the way that I want to do it. I'm going to click OK and go ahead and put the engineering student survival guide. Okay, and then I could put third edition or right, but I'm going to go ahead and hit return. Now I want to put the I'm going to go down just ever so slightly here. I want to put the author's name. Okay, so I'm going to do that as the subtitle. I'm going to go ahead and right click and hit modify again. All right, well, Calibri, forget it, never, death before Calibri. I don't want it, now usually Subtitle we would use for subtitle on captioning a picture or something like that. So I'm going to make a whole new, and I'm going to call this title subtitle. And I am going to increase this to font size 20, and I'm going to not bold it. I'm going to again center it. And then I'm going to click OK, right? And this is by Krista Donaldson. Usually her name is not spelled with a semicolon in the middle, however. There you go, that looks better. Now, you'll notice it's kind of gray here. So I asked myself, boy, do I want it to be like that, or do I want to go ahead and go up here and right-click, modify, and say, you know what, I want it to be the same black that everything else is. If I decide I don't really like that, I just go back over here and hit undo style, and it'll go back to that kind of gray. Now, depending on your home printing, one thing is here, we really encourage students to be able to print things out here. Please don't print out any books. The department is having to pay for this paper, and we have run out and had to borrow paper from people in the past. Kind of an embarrassing contretemps. And we don't want to be in that situation in the future. But go ahead and print out your homework. Print out what you need to print. But be conservative of paper. If you can print something on both sides of the paper instead of on one side, please do that, so that we're not having to pay for more paper again. The IT department says they're going to keep track of our ink, and they're gonna bring us more ink when we use it up. I don't know whether I believe them when they say that.
Perhaps we should just email our homework to you.
I am actually going to ask you to email your homework to me, so that I can look more deeply at the document about whether you changed some of the things that I'm asking you to change. Okay, there's an inspirational speech about engineering at the beginning of the book by Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover was an engineer, a mining engineer specifically, 31st President of the United States. He's most famous for having the Great Depression happen on his watch. He is often criticized for not doing anything, even though he did exactly the same things that Franklin Roosevelt would do later and be given great praise for. That's what you get for being a Republican engineer in the presidency. All right, so I'm going to turn the page from that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and I am going to, I'm going to copy down the brief contents as they have it here. Okay, so you'll notice that when I clicked, it automatically went back to the normal setting. The normal setting just means what you would write in the body of your paper. I can hardly wait for the COVID crisis to be over and not have to be constantly worrying about my mask. Okay, I can see a couple agree with me. Others are saying, no, we love COVID crisis. No, I'm kidding. I don't think anyone loves the COVID crisis. So what I want to do, instead of normal, I want to go to heading 1. Right? When we write a paper or we create an outline, we're going to want things to be at different levels. Okay? So I am going to go, I click on heading 1, I go to modify and right click, or excuse me, left click on modify. All right, so it says that heading 1 is Times New Roman at 22-point font. I'm going to make that 20-point font. I'm going to make it 22. And I want all new documents based on this template. On your own personal computer, you can set all of these things up so that you can just automatically hit heading 1 when you have a major headline you want to put it. Set up heading 2, heading 3. I don't know, as far as I know, you can go up to heading 47. All right, so I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna put one dot tab. You'll notice it made the one jump over a bit. And the name of this is Let's Take, yes, a shot at defining success. All right. Now, I'm gonna hit return. It's gonna go down again, and it goes back to the normal setting, right? But I still want it to be on heading 1, so 2 dot, and covering your bases. Three dot, the undergrad engineering experience. You know, one of the interesting things about going to a college or a university is being an undergraduate is actually harder than being a graduate student. Depending on how much you absorb as an undergraduate. If you learn to study, you learn how to learn things in your field and apply them, then going to graduate school is super easy. If you haven't learned these things, graduate school is not going to be easy. All right. So anyway, I keep going down. All right, so 4 dot, hit tab. Choosing a major and selecting classes. All right, I hit heading 1 again, 5 dot tab. In class hyphen more to staying awake than taking notes. Okay, well, good to know. Oh, question mark. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're asking a question. Yes, I'm sorry, Victoria?
That awake,
Oh, sorry, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried. In recent times, I've started to think that I'm typing a word when I'm actually skipping it. And let me tell you, that makes me worry a little bit. 6 dot tab, outside the classroom hyphen workload and studying. All right, so this is an excellent point, again, that has come up. You'll notice that classroom is got a red squiggly line underneath it because I've tried to put 3 O's in room. And in English, 3 O's in a row is pretty much an unknown thing unless you're writing comic books, right? So I right-click on Classroom, and you'll see the little dialog box gives me two choices, Classroom or Classrooms, right? I just move my cursor over on Classroom, it highlights, I left-click, and it fixes that for me. All right, so again, for 7 dot tab quizzes, comma, tests, comma, and exams. All right, you'll notice that after tests, there is a comma. That is called the Oxford comma. You have to have a comma after quizzes, but the Oxford comma is optional. You don't have to have a comma after the word before and anymore. They changed that grammar rule. Personally, I do not like the Oxford comma. It strikes me as just adding another character unnecessarily. But if you like it, knock yourself out. All right, so enter, go to the next 8 dot tab, a crash course in engineering. All right, once again, I return, I go ahead and then I put 9 dot tab. When the going gets tough, dot, 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 dealing with ruts and unmarked pitfalls. Okay, so do y'all know what pitfalls means? It just means you end up having a problem. It originally comes from mining, when well, in mining you have collapses. They do a lot more today about preventing collapses in mining, but that used to be a big feature of mining. All right, so go hit enter, go to the next one, hit heading 1, 10 dot tab, balancing it all. Okay, and then finally hit return. Hit heading 1, 11 dot, and beyond the bachelor's, comma, S, or apostrophe S, degree, hyphen, things to think about midway through. All right, so now I have the Engineering Students Survival Guide as the title, the author's name, and I've got the 11 chapters. Now, I could have gone one more page over and got the detailed table of contents. But that would deprive us of the fun of finding out more about outlining. All right, so I'm going to go. Okay, you'll notice there's preface for students, preface for professors, depending on depending on how deep an outline we want to go in. If we're doing a report, man, we're going to put all of those type of things in. Although reports usually don't have prefaces, they usually have abstracts. In other words, an abstract is a short description of what you're reporting on. Okay, we did this experiment, and in general, these are the results. We implemented this program. All right, so we look at the book. Guys, I noticed you don't have your books open. We look at the book, and I look at chapter 1, and you'll notice chapter 1 is pretty damn short, 3 pages. Okay, well, now, you'll notice it has 2 kind of subsections in it, right? And what I'm going to do is I am going to go back up to where I put my chapter 1 title, right? But it's as heading 1. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to say, you know what? I think those little I'm going to, quickly glancing at the book, I'm saying, you know what, I'm going to put that as a, those 2 little subsections as heading 3s. Okay, so let me quickly check on what is heading 3. Right click, go to modify. It's at level 12, it's bold. All right, I think I could live with that for the moment. Although, maybe I'll right click, modify, go up to 14, just to show them.
How do you go back to, say you want to modify header 1? How do you go back to that?
Well, I would go here, click on it, right click, it'll pop up the dialog box, and I can modify.
Okay. 'Cause my
Right. Yeah.
header 1 disappeared. It just goes to header 2 now.
It disappeared?
Yeah, from the ribbon.
Oh, you know what? Over on the side, you got little arrows. It may have dropped down to the next level. All right, but I'm actually going to go with heading 3 here. I already modified it, I believe. Yes, to 14, all right, there we go. Right, so I'm going to put in these two subheaders. All right, so engineering is hard. But you'll notice when they do it, they say is italicized. Right? So I'm just going to italicize that one word so I match the book. All right? Then I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to go with heading 3 again, and what is my other? And the other is you must work, and then in parentheses, very hard. Now, so let me say something about both of these statements. And that is that engineering can be hard. It depends. There are parts of engineering I hate to fool with because I find them very hard. There are other parts of engineering I love to work with because I find them very easy. So it's not that all engineering is hard. For example, electrical engineering I find kind of hard. I had to take 2 electrical engineering courses as part of my undergraduate education, and how I got through those, I am not 100% sure. I mean, I learned some stuff. I got through those with a C in each course. So there's always going to be some things that you love, that you learn, that you can always do pretty easily. Math, for example, has always come pretty easy to me, where I know sometimes even for engineers, math is a bit difficult. And there's always going to be those parts that are very hard. You say, and you learn something like, boy, I do not want to end up working in this part of engineering. So, since I was going to engineering school as a mechanical engineering student, it was pretty easy for me to make it through with not too hard an effort when it came to the mechanical engineering courses. Some I found a bit puzzling. Kind of the structure of materials, I'm still a bit confused about, right? But the actual mechanical courses, strength of materials, machine design, these were things I did very well in. All right, now one thing I noticed is my little my guys are sticking out from my chapter 1, so I'm just going to highlight both of those. And then I'm going to hit tab a couple of times to move those over. Okay, because when you're outlining, it looks kind of silly if your interior is sticking out past your major points. Okay, and even though the title is "Let's Take a Shot at Defining Success," I do not see a particular definition of defining success. One thing that's kind of a cliche about people writing speeches is, at this point, they would put in something like Webster defines success as, oh, bloody hell. All right, so I go to chapter 2, and I'm going to kind of look at how that chapter is broken down. Okay, and I noticed that it has sections, right? This is obviously a longer chapter, and on page 6, it has a, damn it, there's never quite enough room here for textbooks and keyboard. All right, so covering your bases, hit enter. I'm going to go to heading 2. I'm going to right click on heading 2 and check that out. All right, so it's at 18. It's not bolded or anything. All right, I'm going to say that's good enough. All right, so then I would type in
You want it at 18 font?
Well, yeah, for this exercise. I mean, look, when you're setting up your own computer at home on this, you know, do it in a way that makes sense to you and you're comfortable with. Ordinarily, though, you want to go from title being largest, heading 1 being smaller, all the way down to, but when you set normal, all right, now you'll notice that her header, everything is caps, which you could duplicate, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to I'm just going to go ahead and do it with some uppercase and lowercase letters. One thing that we should always be aware of is if everything is in caps for a long time, it makes it harder to read. For a little short header like that, it's okay. But like if everything is all caps, it's not as easy to read as a mixture of capital letters and lowercase. just a little prelude to human factors in industrial engineering. Well, human factors applies everywhere. It's just that usually other kinds of engineers and technicians don't study it. All right, so I could, then, under that, I could copy her list and say, all right, a dictionary and thesaurus. And you'll notice I tab in, and what will happen in a minute is it will start reference set. Oh. All right, man.
Yeah, I'm having trouble too. It's doing jumping all over the place.
I'm having that trouble too, and I don't know why. So I'm flummoxed what to tell you. Maybe as we go, the cause will become clear. Okay, paper writing and documentation guide. Right now, I might, you'll notice she only has certain ones checked. As things that she has. Okay, so you'll notice though that I'll do one more. Let's see, compasses, comma, rulers, comma, other handy math and graphical tools. All right, so when I hit return, you didn't do it this time. Okay, when I hit return, I actually expected it to return. Once you start making a little indented list like this, it'll usually keep returning to that same point. I just hope that this doesn't mean that the machines are rising up. All right, so my other stuff kind of jumped below. I'm not sure what that's all about. Okay, so there's all kinds of things. She goes through, oh, should you have voicemail? Should you have a computer? Well, in today's world, you should definitely have a computer. What year was this published? This was published. All right, I noticed the first year of publication was 1999. What happens a lot of times with books of this type, textbooks, they are published, I mean, some of them are published so long ago that, for example, if you were to look on the shelves of textbooks over there, you'd find Beer and Johnson's statics and dynamics book. We were using Beer and Johnson back in the 1970s when I was going to engineering school, right? That all they've done is they keep cranking out new editions. All right, so where do we go? Here we go. All right, so now I want to go back to my heading 2. All right, why did you do that? You silly. All right, my heading 2, and that is for the 10 tricks of the old timers, and in parentheses, upperclassmen. In a way, you can kind of find out. All right, now I want to see if I can get it to jump back up here. Wow, that is just weird. Why does it keep doing that? All right, and you see here that they've got an actual list of what those 10 tricks are. Find out where the offices of the engineering registrar and student records are located. An interesting point on that is because they still kept paper records when I went to engineering school, every time I request an undergraduate transcript, they write my GPA down as a higher GPA than it was before. Of course, for you guys, your records are probably all computer records that are that will be preserved that way. Maybe eventually they'll move them to some kind of backup record situation. You know, when y'all are my age and you have to get a transcript for whatever reason, which you may never have to in your life. If you go into industry, you stay in industry, after that first job that you get, they may never care about your transcripts again. Since I'm in academia, well, that becomes a big part of what they're worried about. Scout out the library and the computer labs. Make a note of the hours they are open. It's very tempting to think that because searching on your computer gives you so many results that you're also getting the best results. Not necessarily true. Right? So learn a lot about using the library and using the reference sources that you can get through that. Additionally, I suggest keeping your textbooks in your major. You will be familiar with them. You'll know where to find things that you need to know. And I doubt any of you have an eidetic memory. Well, maybe I'm underestimating you. Young Victoria, of course, remembers everything. she can tell you the conversations her parents were having when she was 2 years old.
I actually do.
Well, that tends to be a characteristic of scientific and technical people, that they have really good memories for certain things. Some have a full eidetic memory where they remember conversations, diagrams. Others, it's more like their visuospatial sketch pad is good and they can remember the layout of buildings or of machines and so on. Okay. Figure out where your classrooms are before classes start. This is something really good to know. The first week of school, I always have students that are coming in and saying, I can't find such and such. And, you know, sometimes they're asking for, in fact, often enough, they're asking for classrooms that aren't even in this building. Buy books early if you can. She makes the point that engineering books tend to be more expensive. And I would not be the least bit surprised if y'all hadn't bought at least one $150 to $200 or even more book. Okay, 5, find out who your deans are and what they look like. Kind of important. I remember when I was getting my master's degree, the first time I met the graduate dean was when I was called into his office and he chewed me out, ending in a tirade where he was pounding on the desk, veins popping out of his forehead, saying, you shouldn't even be in graduate school. What a grouch. Talk to upperclassmen. Look, the guys who have been there before, they can give you valuable insights, right? So some of them might have talked to you and said, whatever you do, avoid taking Mr. Whiting's class, Computer Skills for Engineers. All right, hopefully they wouldn't say that. 7, be prepared for the lifestyle change. You notice this is the first year that we have a unified schedule for engineering. Everything is arranged so you can take all of the first semester classes this fall that you have to without them interfering with each other. But you'll notice this class starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, for somebody like me, that's super easy because I'm old and I don't sleep well anymore. But for you, it may be a bit of a shock to have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning. Go to departmental, library, and computer center overviews where they're offered. In other words, if they have a thing about how to use the library, go to that, see how that works. In fact, we're supposed to have that in this class as a lecture, and I'm trying to arrange that with Marla Price. Get yourself an alias. I don't know if that really matters as much anymore. Certainly have an email address, a private email address, as well as a school email address. Okay, and kind of distinguish who you want to be using which one. Right? So your private email address, you give that to people who are your family, your friends. You may not want them clogging up your school email address. And surf the turf, get to know the school through looking over the school's website. Right? But also learn about the school. This is one thing that I failed to do before I went to Ohio University. It was only after I got there, I was going there to work on my PhD, and of course that's a kind of a serious thing. But what I found out was that Ohio University is always one of the top 10 party schools in America. Not necessarily as compatible with getting a graduate degree as one might like. Now, graduate schools in general tend to be kind of serious. You know, you go to graduate school to learn more skills, improve yourself, so you can make more money. But it was a bit of a shock to me to find out there were certain times of year when you wanted to avoid certain parts of the campus or the town of Athens, Ohio, because of the party school aspect. All right, so the next subheading is your professor, your professors. All right, so professors are well, at a small school like this, you're going to know all your professors in a much closer way than you would at even a slightly larger school like Texas A&I, where I went. At Texas A&I, I was in 2 giant-sized auditorium classes for physics. And when I say auditorium, it was literally down in the pit. You've got a blackboard, and the professor is lecturing you from there and drawing things on the board and all that kind of stuff. And actually I had to grade a class like that when I was a graduate assistant at Ohio University. And I had to grade 71 essays on the 3 Mile Island disaster. By the time I got through with that, I was praying for nuclear disaster. But that's irrelevant to this. But at a school like this, you're going to know your professors, right? And don't be afraid to go talk to your professors. If you schedule an appointment with your professor, show up for the appointment. I can't tell you how many students have told me, oh yeah, I'll be there at 4:45. I end up having to wait around a couple of hours for them. They never show. And You don't want to piss off the people that are grading. Let me just say that. Right, so at a small school like this, pretty easy. At larger schools, the professor may not be as available. The class may be taught by a teaching assistant or an instructor under the supervision of a professor. One good piece of advice that my father gave me was, when you find a professor you like, take every class you can from them. This is advice that has stood me in good stead. Look, there are going to be classes you have to take. And there's going to be some classes that are electives, where you have a chance to take something from, a lot of different professors. Learn who is a good professor that kind of fits your style of learning with their teaching, and think more about going and taking their classes rather than somebody who you really don't understand where they're coming from or how they work or what they're doing. Okay, it gives you do's and don'ts for dealing with professors, and that is so good that I'm going to put a heading 3, a few do's and don'ts for dealing with, it says profs, they mean professors, of course. All right, but I want it to be subordinate to your professors, so again, I'm going to just tab that over a bit here. All right, so and it goes along, and the book keeps going along. I really just wanted to show you kind of how to outline something, but if we were going to outline this whole book, we'd be here for weeks. Any of you who are taking this class who would like to have a copy of this, we have more copies, and I will mail them to you if you put in your email that you would like to have a copy of this book. It really is very helpful and has a lot of good points about being an engineering student and what you have to learn, things you might want to avoid or might want to be sure you do. All right, so having said all of that, we're now at the point where I'm going to ask Dominic and Winter, do you have any questions? Possibly I should ask, are you even on the line?
Mr. Whiting, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just sent you a message in chat earlier, and I was wanting to know what the size of heading 1 was. The text size?
Let me think. I think I can find that out super fast by going to clicking on heading 1, hitting modify, and looking, and it is at 22.
Okay, then
Yes, go ahead. Okay, but I need to now put this back the way it was before. Yes, Winter, go ahead. Oh, okay, look, as long as your headings are kind of graduated, like heading 2 isn't bigger than heading 1, I'm not gonna worry about it, because there's an extent to which this is a matter of personal taste. Right? When you write a report, like I said, I like Times New Roman, I like these kind of serif styles. Others like a plainer one, like an Arial, or a Helvetica plain style. What I really want you to learn is to be consistent and set things up in a way that it's very obvious what you mean, right? So, for example, as I look at this right now, your professor's a few do's and don'ts for dealing with profs. I'm wondering if I ought to take the bold off heading 3 because it looks a little funny under the unbold other stuff, right? So, if like I say, it's personal preference to an extent, but you do want to think in terms of what is going to make my outline or my report easier to read and easier to understand. Because one thing that we can do with this, when we set up our headers, we can use the automatic table of contents, right? I can go up to the top and here, go down, that wasn't right, all right. Right, and right here, I could go to, let me think, is table of contents here? No, it must be in references, and I can insert a table of contents, table of the 30s. Here we go, table of contents, all the way on the left under references. Because I've got it broken down by my, by title, by, and then by my headings, I can insert table of contents. I'm just going to use the very first automatic table 1, and right, and it went ahead and created a table of contents for me. Right, so that is one of the huge advantages of using these headings when we create a report or an outline type document, right? Even to the point where, well, let's not worry about that. So, Winter, did I answer your question sufficiently?
Yeah, you did, thanks.
Okay, thank dog for that. And Colby, what do you say? Okay, excuse me, Dominic, what do you say? Colby is here in class. I got all confused there for a moment. Okay, well, he's thinking about it. Troopers, it looks like class time has expired. Go ahead and email me your homework so I can look at how you've got everything set up. It's been exciting for me. I hope it's been exciting for you. And unless there are any more questions, I'm going to ring off. Yes.
Do we usually rent the book or do you follow along?
Because you don't have the book I have here, just take any of your textbooks and do me a couple of pages sample of what I've done, okay? All right, but if you want a copy of this book, just send me your email with your homework. All right, so this is homework number 4. Don't forget to put a header on that says your name, class, date, and homework 4. All right, have fun. I'll talk to you soon. All right, and we will stop sharing. We will leave the meeting. And all right, cancel that. And Bob's your uncle. All right, thanks, troopers. If at any time you need to talk to me, again, my office is right behind you, so it's not like it's hard to find me. Even though I asked for an office in Thoreau. No, I'm lying. Of course I didn't do that.
What do we do about the books?
If you want to keep the book, take it with you. If you don't want to keep the book, just put it back on the same pile you got it from.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Take it easy now. All right, no class till 2. Ah. Luckily,